So with this activity here, we get to do some coloring, and that coloring could be on paper or that coloring could be digitally on the computer, depending on the resources you have and you know, whatever you want to do to mess around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this grid of numbers, and notice it's 10 wide, 10 tall, so I have the counting numbers 1 through 100 here. And what I want to do is I want to strike out any number that's composite and be left with only prime numbers. And the way we're going to do that is with a system. And I was kind of hinting at the system earlier in the way I was looking for factors of a number. And you're going to need to make a color key. And so, usually I pick the colors for you, but since I don't know what colors you have access to, I'm going to let you pick your colors. So you decide multiples of 2 are going to be one color, multiples of 3 another, and 5, and so on, and 7. Those are the only ones we have to worry about at the moment. And so a couple of different versions of this. Let me stop share and switch cameras. Okay, so hopefully you can see my grid. And let's see, I had a whole pack of markers here a second ago. Oh, right there. So for example, maybe I'm going to make the 2's red. And so 2 is a multiple of itself, but I'm going to skip it, and I'm just going to strike out 4, 6, 8, 10. And so in my key down here, I'm just going to make a note that the 2's are going to be red. And then I just keep going, striking out the 2's as I go down. And I would finish all of the 2's and then move on, but I'm just going to show how the rest of it's going to be. So then let's say I'm going to use green for 3. So I'm just going to make a note here with my pen. I'm using green for 3. And I'm going to leave the 3 alone, but go to its first multiple. And just for fun, I'm going to strike it in a different direction. So I'm just going to find all of the 3's, strike them in the same manner, because it looks prettier when you do that. And so just go through striking the 3's out and do all of the 3's. Pick another color. Let's say 5 is going to be yellow, which might be hard to see on the screen. Oh, it's not too bad. And so leave the 5 alone, but then move on to its first multiple, which is 10, and then 15. And that one's kind of hard to see. 20. 25, 30, and so on, do all the 5's. And then pick another color. Let's see, what color's next? Maybe orange. Here's 7. And you could use crayons, colored pencils, but it works best with color. I'm not sure how to do it without color. Dotted lines, dashed lines, circles, squares, I'm not sure. So let's see, we'll leave 7 alone, and the first multiple of 7 would be 14. So maybe oh, that looks an awful lot like the red. Now I can kind of see the difference. 14, 21, what's next? 28, 35, and so on. So I want you to just keep going through, do all the 2's, do all the 3's, and in theory what should happen is anything that's left, aside from 1, oops, that's not a real pen, you can just cross out 1, but 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17. Once I'm done marking everything out, anything that doesn't have a colored mark is got to be prime. And we'll have to justify that. If you wanted to try this on a computer, there's a few ways you could go about doing that. So let's go back to screen share. All right. You could copy this into a document. So I could grab all of this here and put it in Word or Google. Let's see, where's my Google Docs? I can make a new one here. And it should copy and paste into a Google or a Word doc pretty well. There we go. And so you could try to find a way using a paint program or inside your word processor, whether you're using Google Docs or Microsoft or Pages or whatever, find a way to do some systematic coloring through here, just to exercise your word processing skills or computer skills. I always like to challenge myself, but for a lot of complicated things like that, sometimes it's easier to do it on paper. So don't spend too much time, but if you want to challenge yourself, go for it. So what we want to do is strike out all the 2s, strike out all the multiples of 3, strike out all the multiples of 5, strike out all the multiples of 7, and then there's some questions down below to answer about that. And I want to go through a couple of these with you now to kind of clarify, make sure I'm asking the questions right. And I think I'm going to go back to this version here. All right. So let's make believe I finished the above there. And move this up a little more. We complete the instructions, filling in each blank with the color of your choice. So that's up here in the key. We will strike out multiples of a number from the grid above by drawing colored lines through them. And I had a system for my colored lines. Feel free to follow that or do something else. And then let's see if we can answer a couple of these questions, 1A and 1B. So it says circle the number 2. Okay, I did that. Then draw a line through every number. Oh, I guess I already did that. Here's question number 3 is what I wanted to get to. Here we go. What was the first number colored by the given prime? So what was the first number 2 got to color out? What was the first number 3 got to color out of the system? And it's not quite obvious, I don't think. Speaker view. Oh, did I mess up that recording again? There we go. So here's my view there. So 2, the first thing 2 got to nail was 4. So 2 mark 4, 4's out. What did 3 get to knock out first?
6.
6, okay, so let's see. I think 2 got to 6 first though.
Oh, that's true.
Didn't it? So what did 3 get to do first? If you consider 2 already got 6. We marked it anyway. 9, says Jimmy. Yeah, it turns out 9 is the first one that 3 got over here. And then, oh, let's see. I messed up my paper. Too many screens going on. Let's see, 5. What was the first number 5 got to take care of? Let's see, 10 was already taken care of by 2. 15 was already taken care of by 3, but 5 marked it anyway. Jimmy says 25, so let's see, 25. 20 was taken out by 2 also, but yeah, 25 is only colored by 5. So it turns out 25 is the first one. So in the past, when what was that? Sorry.
Would we square them to find out the first one that they?
Yeah, it turns out, given the order that we're going through this, get all the 2s, then get all the 3s, get all the 4s, even though we're coloring the 10, the 15, and the 20 for 5, which is important, 5 really wasn't the first one to get those out of the grid. The first time 5 really got to do something on its own was on 25. And so there is a pattern there, right? It's a square. And remember we talked about the square root was a good stopping point when looking for prime factors. So here we're kind of going the other direction. Where do primes have their most of their action going on? And it's related to the square of the number. So yeah, so I thought that was an interesting thing that I should point out again, but that's a tough question to answer there. Okay, back to share the screen. So what I'd like you to do is for homework, work on this and decide if you're going to do it on paper and take a picture of it. I found doing it with crayons and pens is fun, but if you want to challenge yourself and do it on a computer, go for it. But oftentimes things like this on a computer are more trouble than they're worth. But I know some of you like to play with computer stuff. And then we've got some more challenging questions at the end to answer. Like if we went, instead of going up to 100, what if we went up to 400? What numbers would we need for 400? What's the last prime before 400? What's the last prime before 1200? Is there an easy way to figure that out, or is it just a hard problem to do? So I'm going to hold off on addressing those two now, but we have the tools to do it based on the ideas of we know what a prime is, we know how to do a factor tree, we know how to test if a number is prime or not by just looking for factors. So this is going to be mostly a homework assignment. Any questions about this right here?
Could you kind of reword number 5 on this assignment? I'm trying to read it and maybe my head isn't just, yeah, the last prime that we would need to strike out composite numbers.
Yeah,
Not sure if that's...
So in the grid I was just playing with, I was striking out composite numbers by coloring all the multiples of 2 and coloring all the multiples of 3. It turns out that I only have to go up through 7 as a prime to get all of the composites up to 100 gone. Okay, so 7 was good enough. If we go all the way up to 400, what other primes do we need to use to color numbers out of the list?
Okay, that's a little clearer.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, these questions are sometimes hard to word, but yeah, so when working up through 100, we needed the primes 2, 3, 5, and 7. If we go all the way up to 400, we're certainly going to need other primes. What's the largest prime we need to be sure all of the numbers up to 400 could be classified as prime or composite using the same technique we used earlier here. And we will go over this in class together on, what's today, Monday, on Wednesday. Other questions? That was a good one.